Hello there. This is Judy, and today with me is Patricia Heitz. You can call her Trish. She is a wellness transformation expert, consultant, author, speaker. She's board certified health and wellness coach through NBC HWC. She's an executive spa aesthetics trainer, so this lady has got a lot of expertise and a lot of credentials. But what I'd like to do is I want to invite Trish to share your story, Trish.
Thank you, Judith. Judith?
Judy is just fine.
Okay. Uh, Judy and I have known each other for more years than I can even remember, with, like we said before, parallel careers. So, my story is about, I guess, how I became a health and wellness coach. Back in 2002, I just went for my annual gynecological exam. And when the doctor was feeling around my abdomen, I guess they, feel around for the edge of your uterus or whatever. Um, the tumor on my right kidney was so large that when he got over to my right hip, he actually felt something and sent me immediately to get an MRI. And when it came back, I almost fell off the chair when he said, "You have a mass on your kidney," because I had no symptoms. I was just going for my annual exam. So it was shocking to me and, of course, very scary. Of course, I immediately looked up about kidney cancer, and in most cases, it's fatal because usually by the time they discover it, it's gone, it's metastasized in the body someplace. So, just that whole unknown, and my children were young at the time. And I just, I waited until I actually went over to my parents' house. My poor father, he didn't know what to do with me because I knew I needed to break down someplace, but I didn't want to do it in front of my family because I didn't want them to be as scared as I was. So I kind of got that all out when I went to visit my dad. And so my gynecologist got me into a very well-known, very good urologist. And so the idea was I was scheduled for surgery to remove the tumor or to remove the kidney, I should say, because the tumor had taken over the kidney. But we didn't know what the prognosis was going to be from that point on. It all depended on what they found when they went in to see if anything had metastasized anywhere else. So while I was home recuperating from the surgery and waiting for the biopsy results to get the prognosis, someone gave me a book called You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hay. And I opened it up and started reading it, and it's really about what we believe about ourselves, the energy of the thoughts that come from the beliefs of who we believe we are. We hold on to those beliefs. Usually those beliefs are created in childhood, and they're created from an immature brain that doesn't understand what someone's actions, or as a child, things that happen around us, we believe happen to us because we don't understand the difference in our immature brain. And these beliefs are created in childhood, and then we do not go back as adults and ever revisit them. And yet they control everything that we say, do, think, and are in our lives. And so when I started reading this, I thought this was just kind of mind-blowing. But the real big mind-blowing part was when I got to the index, and it says if you're having a medical issue in this part of the body, this is the emotion, this is the belief, this is the wound that you've been hanging on to. And when I looked up kidney and saw fear, anger, and shame,
Mm.
I felt that someone just plugged me into an electric socket. I instantly knew that was true because I grew up in a difficult family atmosphere. It was an alcoholic household, and so there was a lot of fear, anger, and shame. And I thought to myself, you've got to be kidding me. I could actually contribute to creating disease in my body because of my own self-loathing. Like, what? And so I thought to myself, if I could learn how to love myself, what would that be like? Could that be like miraculous? Like, I think I need to turn this around. Like, how can I do this? So I just dived into studying everything about the mind body connection and how, though the energy of the beliefs we hold on to, where they're stored in their body, how we store them, they're unconsciously behind everything that happens to us in our life, the choices we make, the relationships we're in, how much earning potential we feel we deserve, the jobs we choose to go into. I mean, it's everything. And so that was kind of mind blowing. And then the following week, I got the biopsy results back, and the prognosis was that they found no evidence of cancer cells around the tissue of the kidney. They said that the tumor, when the tumor started growing on the right kidney, that right kidney shut down completely, and the left kidney picked up double duty. So therefore, they believe nothing went through the right kidney, and that was why they found nothing in the lymph nodes. They found nothing in the surrounding tissue. However, that was the good news. The bad news was they didn't know if something had traveled through the kidney and now is laying dormant in another part of my body, and therefore I could never be cured, that I would always have to be on high alert for the rest of my life, that those cancer cells that may have traveled through to a different part of my body would be triggered. So
That's
I decided
incredible.
not, yeah, so I decided not to give that thought. I was so obsessed with if I could have created a disease by my negative beliefs, I need to try to figure out how I can reverse that. So I just focused on, I listened to every mind body wellness tape, read every mind body wellness book. And I just took all the information and started applying to it, how to think differently, how to discover what were those beliefs, where did they come from, why have I been holding on to them for so long? And then once I discovered what those beliefs were, and believe me, there was a lot of tears, there was a lot of emotional pain, there was just a lot of process that went through
Mhm.
all those years. But I started discovering that if I could change my beliefs and really like pay attention to the gifts, my strengths, my gifts, my talents that I never really paid much attention to because I was spending so much time self-criticizing and self-defaming, that maybe if I started paying attention to the things that were naturally organic, my authentic gifts, talents, and strengths, I could create new beliefs. And so I worked on that. And little by little, I started liking myself and then loving myself. And then opportunities came along. Life was better. My relationships were better. My marriage were better. Everything just got better and better.
Oh,
And I started realizing how these beliefs just, that once you turn them around, life just opens up. And so fast forward 15 years. So I had to go back every year for my checkup to make sure that nothing was, processing and boiling up in there. And fast forward 15 years, I go back for my checkup, and the doctor says, "We feel confident that we can use the word cure for you now."
wow.
And I was gobsmacked and said, "Well, you told me that wasn't possible." And he said, "Well, we know more about the disease in these 15 years. And what we know is if you've had no more incidences, we feel that you've been cured." So I took that as direct confirmation that what I had done to change the energy that I was holding on into my body of negative self-belief and changed it to embracing my gifts, talents, and strengths, and changing my vibration, changing the energy of my beliefs had literally saved my life. So I was just so blown away by that. I thought I have to write my process down and share it with the world.
Hmm.
I can't just keep this to myself. So I wrote my workbook in 2017. It's called Daydreams Come True, and it's not really about my story as much as it's about the process of discovering what those beliefs are. Once you discover them, what does that mean? What do you do with them? How do you break them down? How do you heal them? And then starting to look and embrace the gifts, talents, and strengths that you are and creating new beliefs around them. And then now that you have these new beliefs, how do you now take it into the world and do the world differently than you used to? Do it in a better way that serves you. So that process, after I wrote the book, I had no plans on becoming a health and wellness coach. I just felt like it was my responsibility almost to share my process because I felt like it saved my life. But then I started getting questions from people about, what this means or how do I do this? And so I started then coaching and then taking classes, formal coaching to help people and so forth. And then I started realizing when I was doing the coaching that this kind of fit into a step-by-step program. So I realized that, so I created a name for my program called Dare Your Beliefs. So Dare is an acronym, and D stands for discover. So discover what those beliefs are because we're not aware of them. They're unconscious. They're buried in our psyche, but they are running everything. So discover what they are. And then once you discover, then you need to figure out, where did this come from? How did I decide that this was a negative belief about myself? So the second word is assess. Discover, assess. Where did these beliefs come from? The third letter in DARE is R. Now that you have discovered what these negative beliefs are and you've assessed where they came from, now you can break them apart. Once you discover them, that starts the breaking apart part right there. It like just breaks it down because now that you know what it is, you can't go back anymore. You have to look at it and say, wait a minute, is this really true? And it's not. And then now that you have discovered what they are, assess where they came from, now you can create new beliefs. So R is for recreating beliefs that support your authentic gifts, talents, strengths of who you authentically are, instead of what most of us do is create a persona that we create to fit in, be loved, be approved, so forth. So now we have to get rid of that persona and really create new beliefs that match who we authentically are and the magnificence of who we authentically are. And then once we have those new beliefs, now it's about expanding on those. So the E is in DARE is expanding on those new beliefs because you have to learn to do the world in a new way as you learn all these things about these beliefs and you create these new beliefs. You're going to look at the world through a completely different lens. So how do you do the world now? It's completely different. And so you're always expanding on that. And the real important part about expanding on those new beliefs is that our brain has been so used to being on autopilot of this is how we do the world. We have to literally teach our brain how to reprogram itself, rewire itself with the new belief. So you have to constantly stay alert and expand on those new beliefs so that your brain can really rewire and realize, oh, this is how we're going to do the world now. We're not going to do it from this negative place anymore. We're going to do it in this positive place. And so that's been my process. And it's been the most fulfilling thing I've ever done in my life to watch people. I do a 7-week Dare Your Beliefs program with people, and they use my workbook. And that's how I help discover what I think is underneath that they haven't seen yet. And so my job is to ask them the questions so that they have the revelations, so that they have their aha moments, because once they have those aha moments, there's no going back. And then they will understand authentically, what they need to do. So we use the workbook. We go through 7 weeks, and it's so amazing to watch the process over 7 weeks of the change in who they are, how they feel about who they are, their life, how they do the world. It's just been amazing.
Well,
That's
congratulations
my
on all
story.
fronts. There you go. It's yeah, you are a very strong woman, and
Yes.
your story inspires other women that they can be strong too. Um, I just really want to celebrate what you've achieved, what you've accomplished, and the fact that you managed to beat a cancer that was thought to be lethal.
Thank
That's
you.
amazing.
Thank you. I feel like it was meant to be. It was kind of the universe pointing. I feel like I needed to have this so that I could survive it and then share with others because it's not even about the cancer. I mean, that was an extreme result of my negative persona of myself. But I mean, this belief work really touches everything. Like I want to work with people in poverty because they have always believed that this is who they are. This is how their life has been, and they just keep repeating the cycle over and over again because they don't know any different. That's how
Hmm.
their brain has been programmed. Everything. People, women who continually get into uh, violent relationships or dysfunctional relationships or people in recovery, why they keep going back to drugs or alcohol. It's all based on this belief that we're in pain and we don't understand how to get out of pain. So we're looking for other ways to do it, whether it's through relationships or drugs or alcohol. But the answer is here. The answer is
Absolutely.
within us. The answer is just looking inside, understanding what we got wrong as a child and right and turning that right side up.
Exactly.
And that's really the answer.
And I think that, and that's something that I've written about in several of my posts, is the fact that the Western culture does not teach us to look inward. And
Nope.
it's an essential tool in order to have a really happy life, something you feel empowered with, that you're just feel for you. So,
Well, you we're taught in the Western world that life exists around us, that everything exists around us. But the reality is that our life is created within us first. And if we don't recognize that, then we're at the mercy of what goes on around us, as
mhm,
opposed to living authentically through what's right for us and what's not right for us. And once you start going within and getting to know your inner self and realizing what's true and what's not true, I mean, just everything miraculously appears and changes and it's miraculous.
absolutely, absolutely. I think that's why you do it, I do it. We have a circle of beliefs, what we believe because of those messages we were drilled into us when we were kids. And then
Hmm.
there is the circle of truths
For
and
sure.
recognizing those. So
Yeah.
there's, when you're working with a coach, you're going to get all of these things that we can't see in
Hmm.
ourselves.
Hmm.
And
Yeah,
I'm a firm believer that all of us benefit from a good coach, um, for
for
one
sure.
problem
I
as
mean,
another.
it took me 15 years minimum to do this for myself because I was doing it on my own because
Yeah,
it's
it's much
hard to
harder.
see in when you're still living out,
Hmm.
you know? But a coach, I mean, I see changes in 7 weeks
Exactly.
when I'm working with my clients. I actually see changes in 3, but they get it and they engage with it and they own it by 7. But the changes as soon as you see what the truth is, there's no going
You
back.
cannot go back. So
You
when we
cannot go
create
back.
that awareness, that is the
Yes.
beginning of
Hmm.
change.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, what have been the challenges? Obviously, one of the challenges you faced was having to do it all on your own. But what other challenges were you facing?
Through the process of my healing, you mean?
Right.
Um,
And then maybe shifting into you realized you needed and owed it to the world to share what you'd learned. And that can sometimes be challenging to get the message out. So, what kind of
well,
challenges did you face?
it's still a challenge to get the message out
Hmm.
because there's only a small percentage of us who have learned through these hard lessons what we needed to learn. So it's still a challenge to educate people that they have complete control over making changes in their lives if they will just allow it to happen and be okay with looking in the mirror. And that's really all it is just to look in the mirror. And it's kind of like people have always been afraid of looking at blood. Ooh, I don't want to look at that. You do it once and it's over and then it's done. There's no more fear left. You
Hmm.
just have to look at it once and it's done. There's no more fear. So that's still a challenge. Um, but I think the other challenge was realizing that I was in different cultures of friendship or workplaces or in places with people that were not good for me.
Oh,
And
yes.
being able to recognize without, like, I can't be upset with someone if they live the life the way I used to, but they're not interested in hearing what I have to say. And so they're going to continue to be negative and they're going to continue to be dysfunctional. And I can't allow myself to get sucked back into that because it's easy to get sucked back in because our brain fights this
Hmm.
because our brain's job is to keep us safe. And our brain's primary function is what we know is safe. Even if you don't like it, we think it's safe because we know it. And even if you're not happy with the way things are, our brain likes it because it's known. The brain does not like the unknown
No.
because that is not safe. And so your brain will suck you back into the old patterns because it's safe. And so that's an ongoing challenge, less and less, of course, as I work my beliefs every day. But in the beginning, I would find myself sucked back and I would say, wait a minute, this feels familiar, like old, bad familiar, like I don't want to be here. And then trying to find a way to move on from friendships, move on from family, people that are toxic and are not good for you, and they can bring you back into some old patterns that are not good for you. That's always a challenge. And I tell
Oh,
people
yes.
that
Oh, yes.
when we go through the coaching, just like I don't bring it up, I don't want to scare them, but always before the end of our 7 weeks is over, they'll say, I noticed my best friend, who I always thought was my best friend, when I was sharing what was going on with me, they didn't want to hear this.
Mm.
And I always say, because they're not ready to know what they need to know to be happy. And they're very comfortable, although not happy, but comfortable and safe in their little dysfunctional way of doing the world. And until you decided that you wanted to look in the mirror, you were comfortable there too.
Hmm.
They're not ready to make that move.
Yes.
And that's a hard decision to say, I can't have this person as my friend anymore because now you're going to have things that are completely different in common. You're
Hmm.
not going to have the same things in common. The person that you used to call up and complain to about your husband or your job or your kids or whatever, you're not going to want to complain anymore because you're going to be too busy healing what you need to heal, and you're not going to want to wallow in negativity.
Exactly.
But that person does want to wallow in
Hmm.
negativity. And so that's not where you need to go, and you start recognizing that. And so those are challenges. But the good news is that when you let go of and put the challenging and toxic relationships that used to serve you when you were toxic and challenging, when you put them behind you, it opens the door to find other people with the same energy level of you now. And so you find people who are healthier to be around. You find people that believe the same things that you do and that support you, and that helps expand you.
Mm-hmm.
That helps just expand all this wonderful new magnificence that you're finding about yourself, because they start to recognize it in you too. And so the good news is that you will make different friends, you will find different people, and all of it will be so much better. All of it will feel better. All of it will just make your life better, for sure.
That's awesome. So I have a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
What was the moment where you realized you were healing and rising?
Really not that moment at the doctor's office when they said I was cured. That was like I did recognize that I was feeling better about myself. I did recognize that I was happier, but I didn't like stop and think about it. I was just progressing each day, finding more happiness each day, but I didn't stop and think about, wow, look at where I am versus where I came from. It wasn't until they said, we believe you are cured. That was when the big wow moment came, to have a doctor confirm that the disease was no longer a threat in my body. And I knew he didn't say it was because of what I did. He didn't know what I did. I didn't get into that with him, but I knew what it was. And that was just the big aha moment.
That's just amazing. I want to thank you so much for joining me here for the podcast. And if you
Thank you
are
for
on
having me.
Substack, be sure and watch for Trish. She will be probably joining us on
Yes,
Substack,
yes, I will.
as well as these podcasts will be available across all the platforms. So go ahead and listen on your favorite, and we will see you next time. Take care.
Thank you.